What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Hopefully you had a good weekend overall. Had some fun here. Played a lot of games, mostly Sekiro, trying to get past that, and some Yoshi. But overall, pretty good weekend. And I guess we want to start right away with April Fool's Day. So it's April Fool's, and that means generally online, you're going to see a lot of misleading headlines and people just having fun. So keep that in mind today, at least. But as we learned last year, sometimes an entire leak is correct, like what we saw with the Pokemon Let's Go leak that took place online on April Fool's Day that no one believed, and it turned out to be correct. So I guess you never know. It might even be the best day of the year for somebody to just put out an entire leak and technically get away with it because no one believes them. So keep that in mind, though, at least for today. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Make sure the like button. It does help out. We're actually going to start today with Yakuza Kwami 2 because it has been rated for the PC by the ESRB, which we've been seeing, of course, more and more Yakuza games like Yakuza 0, for example, go to PC. If you remember at E3 last year for their PC gaming show that like 3 people tuned in for, they did announce that some of the Yakuza games were going to start going to the PC, and now Kwami 2, which I believe released, that was back in 2017 on the PlayStation 4, and it was Yakuza 2 done in the Yakuza 6 engine, but you're seeing the ESRB rating here, and generally when these ratings happen and you see them pop up on this kind of a page, that pretty much means it's cemented and we're waiting for an announcement. Now, when would they announce it? Well, honestly, SEGA could just put it on their Twitter page at any time. It's not like that is a big enough announcement. I think that they'd hold off till E3, although I guess they could, but that's, at this point, a little less than 3 months away. I feel like if they've already rated it with the SRB, they're probably looking to announce it in the next few weeks. So keep an eye out for that. If you've been waiting for it to come to PC, probably don't have to wait much longer. And over the weekend, we had PAX East that took place, and during that time, a lot of games that were originally heard of on the Switch, but not actually seen in motion, were actually played and demoed at the event. We talked, of course, about DirectFeed Games Nate, who told us on the podcast that things like Mortal Kombat were demoed there. They didn't have any footage of it, but it played well. However, we did get footage of Hellblade, actually, as you're seeing here. Game Explain managed to get a ton of footage of that, which if you want to see it in full, the link is down below in the sources, but it looked good. It was off-screen footage, so we don't have any actually directly captured footage to really look at, but looking at that TV off-screen, it looks like it was running well. It looked pretty good. Now, of course, Hellblade is kind of a darker, grittier looking game, so it might be a bit easier to get away with some of the I guess possible blurriness or textures might be lower quality, but looking at that, honestly, it looks good. So Hellblade running well on the Switch does, I think, open a lot of people's eyes to the idea that some other bigger games that maybe they didn't think were possible could come over. I've told you guys several times, it's more about the cartridge size than the power of the Switch. And now we could be going into a more powerful, more efficient Switch, maybe. So I'm telling you, the possibilities really I think people will be surprised with some of the stuff that could be happening on the Switch. It's those cartridge sizes that are really causing issue. But yeah, Hellblade looks like it's going to turn out to be a pretty good pickup. I believe they said sometime over the spring/summer. Oh, and if you're looking forward to something like Starfield or the new Elder Scrolls game, both of which were teased at last year's E3, and you're thinking, oh, this E3, that's got to be when Bethesda's going to show up and show us those games, or at least one of them like Starfield, well, it turns out, at least according to Todd Howard, that won't be happening. See, during their PAX East live stream they did with Bethesda, he's actually on stage simply saying, no, those are still a ways off, and we won't actually be talking about them at all at E3, which is weird because I thought at least Starfield would be there. I think Elder Scrolls 6 is a ways off. I get that. I don't think we'll hear about that probably till next generation, 2022 maybe even. It's going to be a while. Starfield, I figure, was the next big game that was up. But apparently that's not going to be at E3. That'll be at E3, I guess, the following year when we're really talking about next-gen consoles. Maybe that's what they'll demo it on when they do inevitably show it. And that's kind of a shame, I think, for a lot of people. But it also makes you wonder, what are they going to be showing? Prey 2, maybe? We already know, of course, Doom Eternal should be there, and Wolfenstein Youngblood should be shown off just ahead of its release. But what else? What other surprise announcements? That's the thing to ask now, since apparently Starfield or the Elder Scrolls 6 won't be there. They're going to have to show Fallout 76. So there's their big hitter. Put that right on the headline. I'm sure it'll go over really well. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way. Let's get into the bigger stuff. We're going to talk about Joker in Smash, because up until this point, he's been pretty much a mystery. I guess he technically still is. We've seen, of course, people able to data mine more about him. and we haven't really seen anything other than that. Like, we haven't seen even an image of him, a screenshot, nothing. He's been pretty much shrouded in mystery, at least until Best Buy seemingly pulled the curtain back for Nintendo. And this is actually in this weekly ad that they put out. They show Joker. It seemed a render of him, possibly something that'll be used for an Amiibo, as you're kind of seeing here. This was part of it was just nonchalantly put out there as one of their weekly ads. And hey, look, here's Joker. Make sure you get the Fighters Pass, though, so you can have access to the 5 upcoming fighters and stages, including Joker from Persona 5. And yep, there he is there. I don't know what happened here with Best Buy. I mean, they could have maybe thought, okay, well, why don't we do like our own kind of artist rendition of it or something, and we'll put it out there for advertising purposes. But since Joker is supposedly launching before the end of April, most likely stores are either receiving marketing material or already have it and they're waiting. Because just because it's the end of April when it will release, like by the end of April, doesn't mean it's like the last day in April. It could release midway through April. It could be the 3rd week in April. That's actually kind of where I'm thinking it's going to be. I think the next time we find out more about Persona 5 The Royal is going to be around the time that Joker officially launches. I think he'll be announced and shown off with, of course, the typical stuff we've seen before with Smash, where they kind of show off some of their moveset and everything ahead of time, and that could fall into some sort of Nintendo event or Nintendo Direct or something. We might actually talk a bit more about that in a separate video about a Nintendo Direct possibly in April maybe, but I do see Joker launching around the time, and the reason for that is I think it's not just going to be Joker showing up in Smash. I think they're also going to have the female character that was shown in those trailers, because of course we did see something about a ponytail in the data mine. So whether it's an Echo Fighter or just a separate character that comes along with Joker, that could be happening. And that'd be pretty neat to see, and that could be under kind of why it's falling to that time where Atlas needs to tell us a bit more about that character, and then, oh, look, she's on her way to Smash with Joker. But I think it's funny that Best Buy showed this, possibly even showing us what the Amiibo would look like to come along with it, because, yeah, you're probably getting a Joker Amiibo, which a lot of people are going to buy that just for the Amiibo, even if you don't have a Switch or you're not in a Smash, because the Persona fans love these kind of things. So either way, I guess that means we're going to hear about Joker in the next week or two, and then launch in the 3rd or 4th week of April, and we'll look forward to it. But hey, thanks to Best Buy for showing them to us. Next up, let's talk about SEGA Ages. Now, of course, SEGA Ages is done on the Switch, and M2 does a lot of the emulation and work for SEGA at this point for these type of games. They're also going to do the work for the SEGA Mini, so now I have to get that thing because they do outstanding work. They've added all kinds of features, even like if you get Sonic, for example, on your Switch, you have online modes where you can watch people do runs and everything, leaderboards, the whole thing. It's really, really strong work by M2 over there. And here we have a ton of new SEGA Ages games that are heading to the Switch. Big list put out. This is over SEGA FES. And let's go through them actually real quick here. Some of them I'm not as familiar with as others. One I'm really excited about. Here we go with the list. We're going to start with Shinobi, Wonder Boy in Monster Land, Fantasy Zone, Puzzle and Action, Herzog's Way, and G-Lock Air Battle. Looking at these, the two I'm excited for is Shinobi and Wonder Boy in Monster Land. Wonder Boy is a great game. Of course, I believe there's actually a way you can play that already, kind of. But Wonder Boy was a pretty cool game to get into. And Shinobi is really cool to see that. Like, Shinobi, when that was announced, I got excited. And the reason I get excited for these type of games coming to the Switch is because I want to see if M2 does anything extra with them. Because when I first heard about SEGA Ages, I kind of thought they were just going to go through the motions, put it out, a basic emulator and a ROM file essentially, but M2 has done some really good work, and to hear that they would do stuff with like Shinobi or Wonder Boy, that's going to be really, really cool to see. Now, we don't have release dates, we don't know what order they're going to come out in. I would like to see Shinobi come out first, and here's the other thing. A lot of times these games come out in Japan first, and then they find their way outside Japan to the West, so we need to first probably see it released in Japan, and then wait for it to come West. But I'm at least looking forward to Shinobi. The puzzle game, I don't really care too much about that. But definitely Shinobi and Wonder Boy are the two that I'm really excited for. And I really want to see what M2 can do. I don't know if they can add anything extra to Shinobi, like maybe like leaderboards or a way to watch people's runs through parts of the levels and everything. A lot of stuff there that can happen, and I'm looking forward to it. And of course, this will just look much better on the Switch anyway, and it's also a portable game at that point, so exciting stuff. Next up, let's talk about the latest example in why people are terrified of a digital-only future. Now, of course, you can still buy games physically, but the day that we go all digital, something like this, I think, will have a larger impact as opposed to now where you can still kind of find the game in stores. The game I'm talking about right now is Drive Club, because Drive Club VR, and Drive Club Bikes are all being delisted, and the multiplayer is pretty much being shut down, the servers. But let's actually kind of go over this real quick as to what's happening, why this is concerning people, because this isn't like a new thing with these games that are concerning people about digital games as a future, as an only option, because there are other things that have happened like this already, and it's just keep happening at this point. So let's go over the dates so you know when you can not play Drive Club, I guess, at that point. So we have all of it will go offline for the servers for Drive Club VR, and Drive Club Bikes, March 31st, 2020. Before then, though, August 31st, 2019, the games and all their DLC will be delisted from the PlayStation Network store. So you won't be able to buy them anymore. And then next year, they will also be completely offline. So they're going to give everyone about a year, but ahead of them, about, 5 months from now, you won't be able to buy it anymore either. And yeah, that's pretty much just being shut down to the point where you can't play it anymore, because the thing about Drive Club is single player is fun, kind of, but the thing about this is they really push the online part of this game with social interaction. So in less than a year, I guess at this point, that's going to all be shut down. You won't even be able to buy it, 5 months from now. But that basically makes Drive Club kind of useless at that point going forward. And it was kind of a rocky development for this thing, and then release. They didn't even have the weather effects in until months later in a patch. And remember, they were supposed to do this weird PlayStation Plus mode or something for subscribers, and now and it took them like a year to get that out. It was a whole thing. But I mean, we've had Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5, terrible game, but a lot of it was linked to the online. Activision shuts those servers down, and then half the game doesn't work. PT goes away completely. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which I bring up all the time, is gone. Unless you own the game already, you can't get it. And that's what's going to happen on the PlayStation Store in 5 months. If you don't already own Drive Club, you can't get it digitally. I believe you can still download it, but you can't get it unless you get it physically. So I guess the physical games kind of still bail you out. But what happens if you buy it physically and pop it in? Are the patches still available? There's a lot of questions to ask there that we don't really have the answers for as of now. We'll find out more, I guess, in 5 months when it's completely delisted, and then in about a year when the servers are just gone. And it just shows you that games like these, they don't last forever. So it makes you wonder what's going to happen, maybe 2 generations from now when there are no physical games. If that does happen, which a lot of people believe it will we actually have just straight up expiration dates on our games, and you won't be able to play them 20 years from now? It's something to think about. Now, our last bit of news, let's talk about the game that a lot of people were a bit surprised about during that Indies presentation. I'm not necessarily talking about Cuphead. I'm talking about this cross between Crypt of the Necrodancer and Zelda. Now, of course, that's going to end up being Cadence of Hyrule, and it caught people off guard. It's pretty neat to see that an indie developer would have access to an IP as coveted as Zelda, one as valuable as Zelda. But it's happening, and a lot of people were wondering how, myself included. Well, we got a bit of a backstory. This comes from Imran Khan on a Game Informer podcast that they were talking about all of this, and this is what he said. So I was talking about this on Twitter, and I was saying, hey, I kind of wondered how this happened, because it doesn't seem there's a lot of cross-pollination between Nintendo and Brace Yourself Games. I got a DM from somebody who would know, and they pretty much straight up told me it's just that Miyamoto and Aonuma are huge fans of Crypt of the Necrodancer. When that game came to Switch, they apparently just got addicted to it and were like, find these people, we need to talk to them. And that's when they dispatched the Nintendo ninjas. For some reason, I picture the van from old school, where they're just like getting the van and just track them down and chase them down. No, honestly, if you're an indie developer and Nintendo, Aonuma, or Miyamoto come knocking on your door calling you, most likely you're going to answer it, and you're going to get on the next plane and fly to wherever they are to talk to them about it. Because if you're an indie developer and you have that opportunity to use an IP like Zelda and work with Nintendo, yeah, you're going to take it right away. That's interesting, though, that a game that heads to Switch, like an indie game, Miyamoto, Aonuma take notice, and all of a sudden now they're working with an IP like Zelda. It makes you wonder if some of these indie developers are putting their games there maybe to get noticed even, because I'm not necessarily saying they're completely closed off, but I have a feeling Miyamoto, Aonuma, they are very much engulfed in the Nintendo ecosystem, as you would assume. So much so to the point where they probably only play on Switch and 3DS and stuff. And at this point, probably just Switch. So maybe that's why a lot of indie games are really hitting the Switch. 1, sales, and 2, hey, maybe for recruitment. Because you never know. Nintendo could be watching. They could notice your game on the eShop, one of the higher-ups like Aonuma. And all of a sudden, boom, you're building a game with the Zelda IP. Who knows what else could happen? You know, Mario could end up in an indie game at some point if a game is that interesting to Nintendo. Ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, make sure the like button really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today. Whether it is the Drive Club going offline, just in general, a lot of games will get shut down and seem to have expiration dates. Is that something that concerns you for the digital future that we seem to be heading towards? So do you think physical games should always have a place just in case something like that happens? And then also, what do you think about Nintendo really kind of scouting and recruiting some of these indie developers, like literally with Al Newman and Miyamoto being so impressed with Crypt the Necrodancer, to actually go out and find them so they could use the Zelda IP. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.